Lawin Media Network.
Bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community, from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared registered nurse, educator, mentor, professional development specialist, and domestic violence advocate and survivor. The show is brought to you by Lawin Media Network, and we film live every Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you don't catch us live, you can catch us on over 18 different podcast platforms, including Twitch TV, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google. So welcome to the show tonight. Tonight, I would like to dedicate this episode to a dear friend of mine that I recently lost. Her name is Patty Corbett. She was like a mother to me growing up. Just been so heartbroken over this loss. Such a beautiful soul, such a beautiful woman. So last week we celebrated the life of a true angel on earth whose selflessness and kindness left an indelible mark on the hearts of everyone she touched. Growing up, my best friend Trisha's mom, Patty, was more than just a mother figure to me. She was a shining example of unconditional love and compassion. Her unwavering optimism and generosity inspired me to be a better person. And her presence in my life was a constant reminder that I was loved and valued. Always radiant with a warm smile, she had a way of making everyone feel seen and heard. I'll never forget the countless times she went out of her way to support me, whether it was cooking meals or maybe even slipping a little few dollars in my pockets, especially during the tough times after my dad's passing. Her invitations to dinner and vacations was more than just gestures of kindness. They were reminders that I was part of a larger family and that cared for me very deeply. As I said goodbye to this incredible woman last week, I take comfort in knowing that her legacy of love, kindness, and compassion will continue to inspire us all to be better versions of ourselves. Farewell, sweet Patty. Your light will continue to shine brightly in our hearts. And I dedicate tonight's episode to you. And I thank you for all you did for me during your time on this earth. And I'd like to just have a moment of silence to honor her memory for 1 minute for Patty Corbett. Thank you all for joining me to honor Patty Corbett. Tonight, we have another special episode for you all, bringing back one of our favorite guests from season one, Ebonier Davis Martin. She is also known as Ebony, mother of three adult children, ages 23, 24, and 29. Her youngest is on the autism spectrum, and he also has difficulty managing several co-diagnoses. Ebonier, who is an author of Journey to the Freedom Within You, and she is also the founder of Global University, which bridges the gap in services and resources for parents to become better equipped to manage stress and overwhelm. She is also currently working on her second book, which is titled Rebuilding Emotional Resilience and Soul Strength to Defeat External Factors that Occur in Our Everyday Lives. So we love to welcome back Ebony Davis Martin. Welcome to the show.
For having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. We really loved you on season one, and we got a lot of great feedback from our audience members and from our viewers. You were really able to just kind of touch those who are dealing with family members or living with family members that have challenges. So, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Absolutely.
Yes, wonderful. So I just wanted to ask you to start, how is your second book coming along, and can you tell us more about
My second book is coming along a little bit slowly, but it's good. What's different this time
it?
is I'm trying to create it to be more interactive, almost like a journal, with some, questions to kind of help people through the process of, what's going on in our lives. I know last time we talked about the autism narcissist connection, so a little bit of that is in there and how to deal with that challenge and stress. So hopefully it'll be out very soon, and that'll be available on Amazon. And then I'll also record that one too for Audible.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really wonderful that you all offer it in both ways, the Audible. Because I do like to listen to audiobooks, whether I'm driving or
Mhm.
walking around the house cleaning. It's just such a
Right,
great
right.
way. Yeah, it's just so nice, nice way to pass time and to also still get that knowledge in. So that's wonderful. Can you tell us, how do you define emotional resilience?
For me, I decide, a lot of people say, emotional intelligence. I chose the terminology emotional resilience because we are all resilient, whether we realize it or not. We keep going every day, we keep doing every day. So we're resilient. So for me, emotional resilience is not allowing external factors to overwhelm you, to take you and distract you from that place of inner peace of mind. We have so much going on in our lives, especially if you have a loved one with autism, that things can be overwhelming and frustrating. And this factor and that factor externally, whether it's a meltdown, whether it's a school meeting, whether it's a bill, whether it's what to cook tonight, or are they going to eat this? Or, there's so much going on. But all those external factors, they can take a toll on you. So we have to get to a place of
Yeah,
not allowing it to overwhelm you. Yes, it's overwhelming, but it cannot overwhelm you if you don't allow it to.
yeah. Yes, very true. And can you tell our audience, what are external factors and how do they affect on a day-to-day basis?
So external factors are some of those things I just named. I mean, whether it's, I have to pay the bill, I have to go grab something from the grocery store to cook tonight because the
Yeah.
fridge is empty. I have to
Mhm.
go, run over here to do this errand and that errand, or oh my gosh, rent is this much. It's so prices have skyrocketed, and how am I gonna, pay rent? Or how am I gonna, this 9 to 5 job, and I'm caring for a child with autism, and the school is calling me, and I can't take off time from work, and
Yes.
everything that is pulling you away from what is most important in your life, being your children, your spouse, yourself. So
Yes.
anything that's taken away from that, I mean, we have to deal with that. That's life. All those things are part of life, but we don't have to allow it to overtake us. So those are the external factors, the things that affect us in our everyday life.
Wow, wow, that's so incredible because when I think about it, I'm a mother of a child on the autism spectrum, and I find that for myself, those are the bigger challenges. I can deal with some of the behaviors and the picky eating and the meltdowns. Like I'm used to that now. Like I don't care. But it's all the other stuff, and it's like you said, like trying to get talk to the school, and it's an IEP meeting, or it's I have to call my insurance about this thing, and it's all those extra little things that kind of just weigh on you, and they can be very stressful.
Absolutely, they can. So that's why it's important for us to find that place of peace. I always tell people, take that time for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you can't do 5 minutes, do 30 seconds. If you can't do 30 seconds, 10 seconds. Take a deep breath, hold it for 3 seconds, and externally let it out. You'd be amazed at how much that small gesture is enough to reset the atmosphere, reset your perspective in that moment.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. For our audience members at home, if you didn't catch our first episode with Ebony, I'm going to give you guys a reminder of what autism is. So, autism, or how we say now, is autism spectrum disorder because it does lie on the spectrum. Some people can be mildly affected or highly affected on the autism spectrum. And it includes a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and or nonverbal communication. According to the Centers for Disease Control, autism affects an estimated of 1 in 36 children and 1 in 45 adults in the United States today. Although I kind of have a feeling, Ebony, that it's probably more people than that on the spectrum. I
Yeah.
do. I do. What are your thoughts on that? I feel that we're now recognizing it more, but I think there's more people that just haven't been diagnosed.
I agree. I think there's more people that have not been diagnosed. I also think that there's a lot of people that have a stigma attached to it. So they don't
Yeah.
want to attain that diagnosis. And especially in various communities. What I like to explain to people, don't focus on the diagnosis per se. Focus on not for, okay, let me explain. For a parent, they might say, oh, well, my child has this diagnosis. I'm a bad parent. It's no reflection on a person as a parent, or for an individual themselves. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm diagnosed with autism, so this and that. There's not a negative connotation unless you put it there. I
Yes.
also like to say that for receiving a diagnosis, think of it as the conduit to receive the services that are needed. For
Yes.
example, and you're in the medical field, Dr. Carly, so I'm sure you can attest to what I'm about to say. So if a
Yeah.
person is diagnosed with high blood pressure, hypertension, and they need a medication for that,
Mhm.
the doctor, the prescriber, has
Yeah.
to put in a medical code for the insurance company to pay for that
Yeah.
medication. So likewise with the
Yes.
diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, in order to receive various services, having that diagnosis is what is the link to receiving those services. So hopefully that can help the
Yes.
stigma, because to go to your initial point, there are probably many people who don't have the diagnosis because of that stigma. But if they
Yeah.
look at it as a way
Oh,
to get to
absolutely.
those services, I think that might help.
Yes, absolutely. Being a mother of a child with autism, I noticed the signs early on, And so I was the one that kind of pushed for the testing and pushed for her to be diagnosed. And I remember the day they called me with the results, and they were like, okay, make sure you're sitting down somewhere. Okay, are you okay? Are you going to be okay? And I was like, yes, I'm going to be fine. And so they were like, okay, so she does test positive for being on the spectrum. How do you feel about it? Like, they were so worried that I was going to be like, oh no, this is terrible, or like not want my child anymore. The diagnosis was such anxiety and fear. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been knew that. I said, y'all were the ones that needed to know. I've been new, like since day one, since I brought her home from the hospital. I said, oh no, this baby different. So I already knew, it was just they needed to catch up with what was happening so that I could get her those services. It's just like what you said, because once I finally had that diagnosis, I was finally now being able to be like, okay, great. Now for school, I need this. For doctor's visits, I need this. These are the supports that she needs. She needed speech. She needed behavioral therapy. She needed help with potty training. There was so many things that she needed. Occupational therapy. She couldn't use her hands that well. There was so many things I was finally able to get help with once we finally were able to put a label on it. And I wasn't sad. I wasn't like, oh no, this is terrible. Oh, my baby is defunct somehow. No, it's like, oh, who cares? Let's keep moving. Let's
Right.
get her what she needs. No change, so
That's
it's
great.
amazing to see. Yeah.
That's
It's
a
it's
great
amazing to see
perspective
that.
to have. Like, a lot of parents
Oh,
don't have that perspective. A lot of parents do feel that
unfortunately.
sadness or think that their child can't be this or that. And really, it's
Yeah.
we attach to that, and we have to detach. We're putting that on
Yeah.
ourselves or our children and thinking that, yes, is it,
Yeah.
is it a little bit scary? Yeah. Is it going to be easy? No.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
the end of the world. That doesn't mean certain things can't happen. So we have to stop
Mhm.
attaching those negative thoughts with those things. So it's amazing that you embraced and you said, "Oh yeah, I know she's a little different."
I know I've been new, I've been in healthcare a long time, so I could see it right away. Well, we're going to go to our first break of the evening, but we'll be back with more Pink Table Talk with Ebony Martin. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D, and tonight we're talking with Ebony Martin, who is an autism mom and spokeswoman. So, before we went on break, we were talking about getting diagnosed and the stigma that surrounds autism diagnoses. Can you tell us what was your experience like when your son was diagnosed with autism?
Yes, although that was nearly 20 years ago now. It when he first received the diagnosis, it wasn't an autism diagnosis. At the time, it was called
Oh,
a pervasive developmental disorder, and that there were umbrella
interesting.
umbrella diagnoses. Autism was like under that umbrella. So his original diagnosis was PDD-NOS, which stands for pervasive
Wow.
development disorder not otherwise specified, meaning it wasn't the
Wow.
autism, it wasn't Asperger's, it wasn't some of these other umbrella terms. So now we progressed
Wow.
to the autism spectrum disorder. So he does have recent diagnoses as autism spectrum. So that was interesting to see that transition. They knew that he had social difficulty, he wasn't speaking right away, but they weren't quite sure what to put, what to call it, what part of diagnosis it fell under. And again, this was 20 years ago, so we're talking 2000. Um,
Wow.
well, no, this was about 2003 maybe.
Okay.
So in a similar fashion, I knew something was different about my child. Um, he's my third child. A lot of
Oh,
parents, they say statistically, the child diagnosed with autism is usually the first child. I'm not sure why, but that's what I've been told by medical professionals. But I was able to, and yes, each child is different, but I knew that he wasn't hitting those milestones like my other children. And so I knew something was just a little bit different. And so
yeah.
I actually had to advocate for my son to receive a diagnosis. Doctors were telling me, oh, well, and mind you, this was only 20 years ago. This was not in the 60s, 70s. They were saying, oh, well, he's a boy. He's just, he'll catch up. Boys develop a little more slowly than girls. And I'm like,
Right.
my first son was reading and writing at the age of 4, and this
Wow.
son is not even speaking. So I know
Right.
each child is different, but that was a big difference.
Yes. Wow.
Um, so yeah, so I had to advocate to get the diagnosis. So I knew something was different, and I knew that in order for me to get the help for him, he needed to have a diagnosis.
Yes, it's so true. It's funny that for you it was you. He was your last son. For me, my daughter was the first. So her behavior is I wasn't too sure. Um, I was kind of like, okay, this is different, but maybe this is just her thing. But when I had baby number two, then I really was able to be like, oh,
Mhm,
yes, she's really not hitting her milestones
mhm,
because my second daughter was hitting the milestones right away. She was grabbing things, moving differently, sleeping through the night.
mhm,
A lot of the things that I saw, yeah, with baby number one, baby number two was doing things that I thought ahead of schedule. But she was really just right developmentally on track. Even with potty training, she was potty trained before the oldest. So it was actually like I had an idea there was something different, something off. But then when I started seeing baby two grow up, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely different. So
mhm,
it really kind of just solidified my feeling, my gut instinct.
mhm.
Yes. So I feel that for moms, we're the first ones to see it. I feel like we really know our children. And I just wish that the doctors would actually listen more. In my case, I knew at like a little over two, age two, but she wasn't really diagnosed until about a year later. And I just had to keep advocating for her. I really did. I had to just keep pushing and pushing. And it was actually the GI doctor who finally was like, yeah, I think there's something more. So the GI put in the referral for the neuro developmental department where my daughter was going, receiving her care.
Wow, that is so interesting. That GI doctor of all the types of doctors to see something
Yes,
different and say something.
yes,
Interesting. And to your point, as the doctors not really taking the parents' concerns as heavily weighted as they could. I always try to encourage autism moms to realize and remember that they have a voice. This is their child.
Yes.
They are an important member of the team. They may not have the initials and degrees behind their name, but they know their child. They're the one there every day, all day with them. Even when the child is in school or daycare or preschool, the parent is the one who knows the child most intimately. So
Yes.
speak up. It's important to recognize that you're a valuable member of the team. And if that doctor isn't a good fit, then find a different provider, you know. And
Yes.
it's all
Yes.
about what the child needs. So speak up, be the advocate, use diplomacy, you can get more what's the saying? You can get more honey with uh
More bees with
more bees with honey than with vinegar. So, be diplomatic about it.
yes.
Don't go out there acting all kind of, belligerent or anything. But just speak up, have a
Yes.
and use it
Yes.
appropriately and get what you need from your child.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that I like to tell people in general, just not even just moms, but I think everybody, when it comes to their health or the health of their children, we really have to learn proper advocacy. Just really speaking up, I feel that it really makes a difference. Because, like I said, and you said too, is once we had that diagnosis, we're able to finally get the services
Mhm.
that the child needs. And that can be such a difference in their life. I know my daughter has benefited so much. She's really made tremendous leaps and bounds by getting the services that she's needed. It just really makes such a difference. One of the other things I remember too was that I kept getting well, she doesn't look autistic,
Mhm.
and or because she was verbal, even though she was scripting, she wasn't actually having real dialogue with people.
Mhm.
My daughter often would watch movies or TV shows, and she would just kind of repeat things she heard in the TV show. And so people would always tell me, well, she doesn't look autistic. She doesn't look like there's anything wrong with her. And I'm like, well, what does autism look like? You know?
Yeah, it's interesting because, there's a common saying I like to tell people in the community, the autism community, we say, especially because it is a spectrum, when you've met one person
Yes.
with autism, you've met one person with autism. Person is different. No two people that's just like with anyone. No two people are the same. So how can
Yeah.
someone say, oh, this person doesn't look autistic? And that's what the purpose of awareness is and having conversations like this so that people can understand it doesn't look any certain way, but we should be open and accepting to whomever is in front of us.
Yes, yes, it's so true. I even remember my daughter being refused entry into a school because she was so behind developmentally, and they just didn't think she would catch up. They said, "No, our curriculum here is so fast. She's so far behind. She won't catch up." And I remember even writing to that board for that school. It was a private school, but I wrote to that board just telling them and voicing, just my disappointment, and how they just really just put this label on her and just really didn't think she had potential. Tell you what, in a year's time at the right school that was willing to be patient and working with her, she's exceeding her milestones. She's doing fabulous. She's writing, she can do math, she's speaking well, and she even is now potty trained because that was also an issue.
Mhm.
I mean, all of these things that this one person, this one group of people thought she wouldn't be able to, she did. Feel that you have to believe in these children. You have to have faith in them, and you have to be patient with them because I'm telling you, there were days where I really did think, oh, I don't know if she's ever going to get it. I don't know if she's ever going to get there. And then one day it was like, oh, she's there. And I was like, wow. She really just surprised me. But, it's like you said, there's so much negativity out there, and you just have to be willing to keep pushing forward and pressing beyond it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, another example of if it's not a good fit, rather than internalizing that and being angry with, that school that didn't work out, it wasn't a good fit. And look what happened. You did
Yeah.
find a good fit. You did find the right place, and you started to excel. So it's so important to advocate, on behalf of your child. It's so important to find that good fit, and not internalize and take to heart when someone says otherwise or says negatively. I'll give you an example for something that I faced with my son. And so my son was homeschooled for a good portion of his educational career. I had homeschooled him for a while. And then at one point, he was homeschooled through the school district, where they provided a teacher to come to our home and provide education. And so there's something I advocated for. Also, evaluation, I advocated for that too. That's a right. There's so many things parents may be unaware of, that they're able to access stuff. But anyhow, so the homeschool teacher would come to the house every day and, do the lessons with my son. And so she would have to submit his work, to prove that he's in school and getting his work done. And his teacher, there was a main teacher, like his regular classroom teacher. But the homeschool teacher kind of not necessarily reported back to her, but she submitted the work so that his actual teacher could process his grades. So the homeschool teacher submitted his work, and the main classroom teacher said, I don't believe he did this work. You have to be doing this for him. And I mean, are you kidding me? There's so much. I don't know why it exists. The point of the matter is that we have to not get discouraged by things like that. In a similar fashion, not believing that he did the work, not believing that he could read. My son, it took him a while. He was a late reader. He didn't read until about the age of 10. But when he read, he read a chapter book. And so basically he had known how to read for a little while. If his first book was a 200-page chapter book, it was The Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
But
wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And so we knew he knew how to read. He was also reading his siblings' text messages. And because when he was in that classroom, prior, he wasn't showing that he knew how to read. So she didn't believe that he was doing the work. And now, had I internalized that and let that frustration overtake me, I wouldn't have been able to help him to the next level.
Yes. So true.
I was able to encourage him, and he kept reading. And rather than saying, "Oh, I don't believe you didn't read that book," I said, "Oh, tell me about the book." He began to tell me about mice in the field. I said, "I don't recall mice in the field and The Wizard of Oz. What is he talking about?" He took me to the page and said, "Read this paragraph."
Wow.
And I read it. I was like, "Oh my goodness." And so, but I was able to encourage him and engage in conversation, and so that he could go forward and grow in progress. So we can't let what other people think and say stop us.
Absolutely, not at all. Thank you so much for that wonderful story. I really appreciated hearing that. We're going to go for our second break of the evening, but we'll be back with more Pink Table Talk with Ebony Martin.
Tune into Legal Treats with attorney Eileen Ligote Dizon
every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Get your weekly dose of legal knowledge, especially on family matters like divorce, child custody, child support, estate planning, probate and immigration.
Engage in discussions by posting your questions, comments, greetings or shoutouts.
See you every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. That would be Saturday at 9 a.m. Philippines.
Don't miss out.
Welcome back, everybody, to Pink Table Talk. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network, and you can find us on Twitch TV, 18 different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and you can watch us live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Tonight, we're talking to Ebony Martin. She is an autism mama and spokeswoman and author. So, before we went on break, we were talking about not being discouraged and having emotional resilience. So, including in that, you often talk about self care for moms of children on the spectrum. Can you tell us about the benefits of self care?
Yes, that's a very good question. So the benefits of self-care is renewal. We do so much
Yes.
every day, and we have to be renewed
Yes.
in order to keep doing what we do. And
Yes.
and typically, though, when people think about self-care, they think about what they can do for themselves, go and get their nails done or hair done or shopping spree or whatever. Some things are great, great things,
Yes.
but as an autism mom,
Yeah.
you might not
Mhm.
be able to go, sit for an hour or 2 hours in a hair salon or nail salon. You have to think about ways that you can renew from within. And, small,
Yes.
simple ways, long as you add it to your schedule, you take that time. For me, I think I mentioned on the last episode last year, is that it started in the restroom. My self care, that was the only time that my children did not disturb me.
Mhm.
So if I took an extra couple of minutes in the restroom, that was just, I had to, have
Yep.
that time to myself.
You have to.
So whatever that looks like to each person, like now
Yeah.
I like to go sit by a lake and just kind of reflect. It can be take a deep breath, like I mentioned earlier, 5 seconds. Take that deep breath, hold it, count for one, two,
Yeah.
three, let it out audibly. Start
Mhm.
there and build on it. Start somewhere because self-care
Yeah.
is so important
Yes.
for renewal so that we can have, as I like to say, renewed strength for a renewed you.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And you made a lot of sense to me because I first learned of you going to a support group for autism moms. And I remember you told me, you can have some time to yourself. And I'm like, wait, what? I said, no. I mean, isn't that rude to my kids? And you're like, no, if it's not an emergency, they're not bleeding, somebody's, falling, arm falling out, something, you can have 5 minutes to finish your show, your episode, or, read a book or something. And to me, it's like, yeah, I tell people all the time, oh, yeah, take time for yourself. I'll do some. But then for myself, I was like, wait a second, wait, I can have some time?
Right, right,
My kids aren't going to get mad at
right,
me?
right, 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 right. Right. I remember that. It's so funny. I remember that. And even you start where you are. Even if your children are, if you
Yeah.
can't take that time away from them, if they're entertained, they're watching their favorite movie or something, throw your headphones on, and just be in your own space in your own head for a few minutes. Even if you have to keep eyes on them, find little ways to just kind
Yeah.
of take a breath, and just breathe and just
Yeah.
in your mind, refresh and
Yeah.
renew your mind.
Yeah. And now my youngest, who's like she tries to be a mini mom. she'll tell the oldest now, mom is not going to listen if you're not bleeding, if we don't need to call 911 and there's not a fire. So don't even go bother her right now.
Excellent. I love it. So see, my example that I mentioned on the last show, you took that home and now your daughter is
Oh yeah, they know
that's
it now.
awesome.
Yeah, they know now. Oh yes, when I have my show or I have my music now I'm listening to the Wicked soundtrack. It's been Wicked soundtrack since November, but they know when I have that wine and maybe I have a glass of wine. They're like, no, don't go in there unless it's fire, bleeding, something.
Yes, and that's really excellent. I'm glad to hear that. But definitely for moms out there, parents and caregivers, start where you are, and take just that
Yes,
whatever time you can take and build on it. I know I had one mom
yes,
said that every time I go in my room and close my door, I can't get any time because as soon as I close my door, my child is over here screaming and this and that.
they come.
And I said, take a deep breath. I said, it sounds like to me, he's just not understanding what that closed door means. To him, he's likely thinking that he can't get to you. I said, so have your door
Yeah,
halfway open so he can see you,
yeah,
but he can't come in for a moment.
yeah,
And then maybe start, instead of halfway
yes,
open, close it a little bit more the next time and just a little bit more and leave it cracked. So
yeah,
that way he can feel he has
yeah.
access to you, but you're still in a space for yourself.
Hmm.
We have to find those ways
Yes,
that'll work for us because what works for me may not work for you. You have to find what works for you.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it started with me just maybe finishing an episode on Netflix. Now I can actually journal and read, or like I said, listening to my soundtrack, or even a shower. I think I mastered a quick 5-minute shower as a mom. When before pre-mom days, I'm in there, I'm scrubbing everything
The
down.
whole
Um,
hour.
Yeah, no, now we got the quick little thing. But every now and then, when the kids are really settled, I'm like, I'm going to take a few more minutes in that warm water, and I take that deep breath. And it just is, I do feel that reset, and I'm out from having a real shower and feel refreshed and recharged.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about taking those few minutes to yourself and adding on to it and being renewed because my goodness, we deal with so much every day.
Yeah.
And to go to your point before with the sleeping, when you mentioned that you noticed your child wasn't sleeping the same, your second child was sleeping better. That to me, I've seen as pretty common in people with autism spectrum disorder, children. Sleep is very limited. And you have to, I know when my son was younger, I used to hold on to, he used to like to jump in the bed. And I used to
Yeah.
hold on to him. So I know he's still in the bed and I'm dozing off. I know he's safe. I know I'm getting a few Z's. And it's okay. You have to do what you need to do. What's best for you, best for your child, safety, of course. And those are some of the little tools and things that I help moms, because I life coach as well. And I help them to see different little ways because when you're in it, you can't see your way out of it,
Yeah.
So I don't go in there telling, hey, do this, hey, do that. I observe. I'm good at observing. And I help moms figure out what will work for them,
Yeah.
because we need that renewal. We really do.
We
On a
do. We
regular
do.
basis, not just
Yes.
going away somewhere once every 5 years.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And it's so funny because the sleep was such a huge issue. So that was definitely on our list and our plan of care with the behavioral therapist, was getting her on a sleep schedule. But yeah, that didn't work. We tried weighted blankets. We tried different night and sound lights and white noise and the sleep hygiene routines and and everything. And she would be up. She would be up. I mean, she was up. I even thought, okay, let me start the night process, and she'll wind down. And she's still looking up at me and looking, and I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, when are you going to bed? And that was for about from 2017 to 2023. So yes, no, I did not get a full night rest until just about a little over a year. It was a long process. So I did a lot of work at night, and she would be looking at me, and I'm looking at. But it's just part of the gang, That's what I call it, the autism gang. We're in it. We're hardcore. We're troopers. But yes, that self-care, it really helps. If I could get a nap in the daytime when she was in daycare. Sometimes I have half a days at work. I would use that as my time to even just relax a little bit. So I found ways to kind of make it work during those times. But like I said, she's made such a turnaround, and I'm just so happy and delighted. I really am. We have days though. There are some days I'm like, oh, today's a rough day. But then she bounces right back. So it's a thing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, that's how it is. There are times where every day is not easy. Excuse
No.
me, and that's why it's important to build resilience. That's why it's important to have renewal, because when those days come, and there are no joke, there's some serious days.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me and knows my son knows that my son is a gentle giant, but my son has behaviors, and hitting me was one of those behaviors,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how would I deal with that? And my
Hmm.
son now, 6'3", 300 plus pounds, hitting
Wow.
me, so
Oh
how do you
my.
deal with
Yeah.
without the skills, without the resilience, without the renewal, I'd be pulling my hair out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so that's why I work with autism moms, because it isn't easy. And
No.
as a reminder, to let them know you're not alone. You're not the only one dealing with this. And we can better together. We
Yeah.
can be empowered to do what we need to do every day.
Yes. And that's why I appreciated your group so much, because it was finally a place where I could be like, somebody understands, trying to explain it to somebody that doesn't have a child on the spectrum. They don't get it. They don't get it. Well, just give them this and they'll go to bed. Well, my kid always goes to bed at 8 o'clock every night, and they sleep till 10 the next morning. And it's like, well, that's wonderful for you, but that's not my reality. So, it was just so nice having that space that you created for us to be able to go and talk and, just talk about the challenges of the day. Like you said, there was days where they're hitting, or the meltdowns, or, not sleeping. And sometimes I'd hear the kids in the background, and I'm like, okay, it's not just me. I'm not
Right,
the only
right.
one,
Yeah,
because there were times where I could
exactly.
barely talk. I'm like, no, they're being too, like, she's having a meltdown.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was very comforting, and I really appreciate you for hosting those.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually, that's one of the things that I miss doing when we had the support group, and I'm still looking for other platforms. It was nice to be on a platform that wasn't charging, and then they
Yeah,
started charging, and
I know.
everyone can't afford to pay for everything.
Yeah.
So I am trying to look for other platforms to perhaps bring the online support group back. What I
Yes.
liked about it too is that people could be anonymous if they chose to. They
Yeah.
can come on and speak if they wanted to speak. They could just listen. They
Yeah.
could ask questions. I've done that with YouTube and in my podcast. So that's available too. But the support group was really close and intimate. And I try to, everything that I do, I try to keep it that way so that
Yeah.
we all already deal with so much overwhelm. So I try to
Yeah.
keep everything small and short and simple, like quick nuggets to just kind of nuggets of encouragement to keep you going on to get through each day.
Yes. Awesome. That is so wonderful. We're going to take our last commercial break of the evening, but everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk.
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories. From elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits, I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. We've been having a wonderful discussion tonight with Ebony Martin about autism, moms, self care, and emotional resilience. So, Ebony, before we end the show for this evening, can you tell us about any upcoming projects or events that you have coming up?
Yes, absolutely. So, as we touched on a little bit earlier, I am working on my second book. And I created that to be a little more interactive, to be more in the form of a journal. It does have its content, but it also has strategies to deal with the overwhelm. And because we might not always know, we might not always have the answer. So it's not that I have the answer for everyone. I guide through that process so that people can find the answers within them, which is a continuation of my first book, Journey to the Freedom Within You,
Yeah,
because we may not know it, we may not realize it, but we were given the answer. We have the answers within us. We have the
yeah,
strength, we have the resilience, we have the power to, as I mentioned, with those external factors and the emotional resilience, to not allow those things to overwhelm us. So I'm trying to get that second book out. And again, that will be available on Amazon, just like the first. And then I'll also record that for Audible. I use my own voice. I do realize my gift and talent in having a nice speaking voice.
nice soothing voice.
Um, yeah, but I receive compliments for the online group. Like people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're so calming." And if you listen to my podcast, I actually address that. I'm like, people, I know you're saying, how can that be? Yes, I am with God. Because I had to be for my son. It would agitate him, and he loud speaking, and he, all of
Wow.
that. So I'm working on the second book. I'm also in the local community. Located in Orlando, Florida. I just spoke with a woman today. I'll be tabling some events to tell people about Soul Flow, which is
Nice.
the name of the organization, the Soul Flow Institute and Global YOU University.
Yeah.
I'll also be doing some workshops at some upcoming events, and we hope to, broadcast those live, or at least where it can be replayed later, so people can see it on all the social media platforms that I'm on, so they can get some more skills and add to their tool belt, so they can get through each day.
Yes, yes, and it is needed. I think you have a website. If we can bring that up.
Yes, soulflow
Yeah, it's so colorful. It looks so
you.org.
tropical. I'm jealous now. I want to be in
Yes,
Orlando.
exactly. That's part of the self-care. Picture yourself in a nice environment. Everybody can't live in sunny Florida, but you can think about it. And on my website, you'll notice right there in the center, it has an excerpt to my book. You can press play and listen to that. I have my podcast, The Soul Flow Experience. I have your interview, and this one, once I receive, I'll post that online as well.
Right.
And I'm trying to get out to where I can do more interviews like this so that I can bring awareness to the community
Yeah.
and provide support for the parents because
Yeah.
that's so needed. I am
It
on
is.
YouTube and all the major social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on most things as Soul Flow You, YOU, because it's about bringing that flow and putting yourself into the mix. So to bring back to remembrance the YOU, you are important, you are worthy, you are worth it.
Oh, that's so wonderful, Ebony. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And like I said, you really gave me just like it's like not permission, help me to feel okay taking time for me. Before
Yes.
I went to your group, I was like that stressed mom, that tense mom, that mom that was always like, how am I going to do everything?
Right.
Like I said, whenever they called for any little thing, every interruption, I was there. I was there. I was doing this. They want a snack. Now they want a snack to the snack. And, it was constant, it was like, wait, I just fed you. We're still hungry. And I didn't have my woo side. I didn't have my like, okay, I need my 5 minutes,
Yes, exactly.
but to you and someone that's lived it, that's gone through it, it just allowed me to be like, well, it's okay, they're going to be fine, they're fed, they're taken care of, I can have my moment to myself.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad
you
you
know
listened to all the things that I was telling you, that you applied them as well. I'm so happy to hear that. And though that's just a small example of what I do when I work with autism moms. I'm also taking clients for sessions for life coaching, and that's what it's about.
Wonderful.
You know?
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. So you guys definitely out there check out Soul Flow for you or Soul Glow. I feel like my soul is glowing around her. So
Nice, nice.
um, definitely check her out. Check out her books, check out her website, and listen to her speaking engagements. She is truly life changing, and she will make you have that connection to you, back to you.
Yeah.
And I just thank you so much, Ebony, again for coming on the show today. And I look forward to seeing your second book when it comes out and listening to it on Audible.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
For
Dr. Carly, for having me. I enjoy speaking with you always, and it's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you guys for watching tonight. Pink Table Talk is on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on Lawin Media Network, either through our YouTube channel or our Facebook Live, Twitch TV, and 18 different podcast platforms. So remember to watch on Wednesdays, and we talk in pink. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.